Have you ever sat in the parking lot, engine off, hands on the steering wheel, and felt that heavy, nameless weight telling you, I can't go in there again? Not because you're lazy, not because you're weak, but because something inside you is suffocating under fluorescent lights and endless tasks that don't seem to matter. If you hate your job and feel trapped, you are not broken, you are human. And there is a way through this that doesn't start with quitting, running, or burning everything down. Tonight, we're going to borrow a compass from Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the camps and built a psychology around meaning. He did not promise comfort. He promised something stronger, the freedom to choose your attitude, to find meaning even in suffering, and to become someone you respect, starting exactly where you are. Let's begin with the ache itself. You wake up, feel the dread crawl into your chest, and your mind starts bargaining. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it'll be better after coffee. Maybe if my boss were different. Maybe if I got that raise. And then the day starts, and the same loop repeats. Emails arrive like small waves of disappointment. Meetings that should have been an email. Urgent tasks that mean nothing to anyone. You scroll during lunch to numb the grind, and your soul whispers, is this it? Frankl would say, that voice isn't your enemy. It's your signal. It's not just anxiety. It's a crisis of meaning. He believed we are not primarily driven by pleasure or power, but by meaning. When we can't find meaning, we don't just get bored, we get sick at heart. We feel empty, irritable, numb, trapped. And the first move is not to run, but to listen and ask, what is this pain pointing to? Frankl gave us 3 doors into meaning. Creative values, what you give to the world, what you make, build, solve, or lift. Experiential values, what you receive from the world, truth, beauty, love, the sacredness of a moment. And attitudinal values, the stance you take when suffering cannot be removed, your dignity when life says no. So here's the first reframe. Your job might not be meaningful in itself. Many aren't. But within any environment, those 3 doors are still present. You can create, you can receive, and you can choose your attitude. The question becomes, within the job you have today, what will you give, what will you savor, and who will you be? I know. That sounds lofty when your inbox is on fire and your boss sends a passive-aggressive ping at 4:59 p.m. So let's make this painfully practical. Start with creative meaning. Ask yourself each morning, what will I leave better than I found it? It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be deliberate. If you process orders, maybe you design a tiny system that saves someone 5 minutes every day. If you write code, maybe you leave comments so clear that a junior dev feels safe and valued. If you work retail, maybe you learn one regular's name and notice what they need before they ask. The point isn't the task, it's the intention behind it. A micro-mission, a small creation, a deliberate contribution that declares, I am not a cog, I am a creator. Then experiential meaning. The day is full of moments that most people skip. Frankl would tell his students to notice the light on the wall, the way a stranger laughs, the winter sky on your walk to the bus. If your job feels like concrete, these moments are your cracks of sunlight. Can you let yourself receive one real moment before 10 a.m.? One moment of beauty, one moment of connection, one breath that you actually notice. It doesn't fix the whole day. It changes the quality of your presence inside it. And then attitudinal meaning, the last freedom. This is the one you reach for when nothing else moves, when the workload is unfair, when the schedule is brutal, when the system makes no sense. The question here isn't how do I win? It's who do I become in this? Do I become bitter or braver? Do I gossip or ground myself? Do I curl inward or quietly serve? Frankl called this the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, that freedom is not abstract. It is exercised in seconds. You feel the spike of anger. You pause. You choose your stance, again and again. But let's be honest, some jobs are not just boring, they're corrosive. Maybe your manager humiliates people. Maybe the culture rewards cruelty. Maybe the product harms more than it helps. Meaning here is not about polishing chains. It's about reclaiming self-respect while you plan an exit with integrity. So let's talk about two paths, meaning now and meaning next. Meaning now is job crafting. Not changing the job title, but changing the way you relate to it. You identify your why within the walls. Who do you serve? What tiny excellence can you bring? What values do you practice here on purpose? Think of 3 pillars: service, craft, and character. Service. Pick one human being you intend to help every day. One colleague you protect from chaos. One customer you leave calmer. One teammate you coach without being asked. When you aim your work at a person, not a metric, your nervous system gets a story it can tolerate. I am here, today, for them, not for the company. For the human in front of me. Craft. Choose one dimension of skill you will sharpen for its own sake. Clearer handoffs, cleaner code, better listening, smoother escalations. You're not doing it for a promotion. You're doing it to become the kind of person who leaves order where there was noise. Character. Decide one virtue you will wear like armor today. Patience in a messy meeting. Courage in a status update. Honesty in a timeline. Kindness when the chat heats up. Dignity when unfairness hits. Your job becomes a training ground for the person you are becoming, and that has meaning even in a place that doesn't deserve you. Meaning next is strategy. Frankl would never ask you to deny reality. If the place is crushing your health or integrity, the meaningful act may be to leave carefully, deliberately, in a way that honors your future self. Give yourself a timeline, not a fantasy. 90 days to update your skills, 30 days to rebuild your resume. 1 hour each morning to apply before your day steals your will. Set a date to decide, then let the decision rest until then. You're not stuck, you're on a path. But what about the days when nothing changes and the dread keeps coming? Here's a tool from Frankl's school, dereflection. When you stare at your distress grows. When you turn outward toward a task, a person, a purpose, your distress often shrinks. Not because you denied it, but because you gave your mind a better object to hold. So in the moment when the anxiety peaks, stand up, do one small act of service. Make one thing clearer for the next person who touches it. Then breathe. You are not your feeling. You are the one choosing a direction in the presence of that feeling. And for those spirals where you fear you'll fail, or you'll never be free, Frankl sometimes invited paradoxical intention finding, a sliver of humor to loosen the grip. Imagine walking into that meeting and silently thinking, excellent. Today I will set a world record for the most ridiculous status update. It's not sarcasm for show. It's a private grin that breaks the spell of fear. When anxiety loses its solemnity, it loses some of its power. Let's go deeper into the heart of this. The reason work hurts when it lacks meaning is that work is where our hours become public. It's where we trade time for something. If what we're trading for feels empty, our body protests. But the body is not the enemy, it's a messenger. It's asking, what are we giving our time to? Who benefits from our life? What are we becoming by the way we do this work? There's a question I love that I think Frankl would bless. What is the story of today I could tell with respect? Not the perfect story, not the glamorous story, the honest one. Maybe today you took a difficult call without raising your voice. Maybe you told the truth about a delay and didn't blame anyone. Maybe you protected a junior teammate from a blast of blame by taking responsibility for a system, not a person. These are small, invisible wins. But invisible doesn't mean meaningless. Meaning is often quiet. And what about the golden handcuffs, the job that pays well and drains your soul? Frankl would say, money is a means. It's not a story. If you're staying for money, decide what you're really buying with it. Are you funding a belief you care about? Are you buying time to learn, to write, to build something of your own? If you can name a real why, the weight gets lighter. If you can't, the money becomes expensive. It costs you yourself. One more honest terrain, the unfair boss, the micromanager, the leader who confuses pressure with leadership. You can't fix them, but you can change the battlefield. Move your attention from their mood to your mission. Their mood is weather, your mission is climate. Ask, what's the smallest consequential thing I can do in the next hour? Then do it. Keep a small ledger, 3 lines of what you finished each day, not for performance, for dignity. To remind your nervous system, I moved the needle, and I did it my way. Also, choose your people. Even if the culture is chaotic, find your micro-tribe, 1 or 2 honest colleagues who share a sane ethic. Make 5 minutes of real talk a ritual. You don't need a perfect team. You need a small circle of reality to return to. When you feel trapped, your mind tells you there are only 2 options: quit everything or endure forever. Frankl offers a third: transform the time between now and then. That is not compromise. That is power. You take a day that was going to pass anyway, and you turn it into training. You're training your attention to aim at a person, not a metric. You're training your craft to leave a clean trail. You're training your character to stand in weather without losing yourself. At some point, you will feel the quiet shift. You're no longer asking, how do I survive this job? You're asking, how do I use this job to become the person I want to bring to the next one? That shift is meaning. Let's walk through a day together and put this into motion. The alarm goes off. Before the doom scrolls, sit up, feet on the floor. Whisper 1 question. Who needs me today? 1 name, 1 face. Let it be real. That's your service. Breakfast on a scrap of paper. 3 micro-intentions. 1 act of service, 1 piece of craft to improve, 1 virtue to practice. Keep it in your pocket. You don't need a productivity system. You need a compass. Commute. No heroics, just a choice. Look out the window and find 1 thing you wouldn't notice if you were miserable. A child waving at a bus. The reflection of sunrise in an office window. The way the city wakes up. That's your experiential value, deliberately receiving a moment of life. First hour at work. Do the ugliest task with patience. Not because you like it, because you're stronger than it. 1 clean, focused hour. Put a invisible signature on it. I did this with care. Mid-morning, anxiety spikes. You want to escape, dereflect, aim outward. Ask, who's about to receive this thing I'm touching? How can I make it easier for them? Remove 1 obstacle. Lunchtime. Don't eat with your phone in your face. Sit outside if you can. Taste your food. Feel sunlight on your hands. 10 minutes of presence. You're not wasting time. You're returning to yourself. Afternoon, a meeting goes sideways. People talk over each other. You feel yourself heat up. Remember your virtue. Maybe it's courage. You speak clearly, not loudly. Maybe it's kindness. You give credit. You don't hoard it. Maybe it's honesty. You say, "We don't know yet." Let's not pretend. A small act. But your nervous system learns. I can remain myself even when the room is chaotic. End of day. 3 lines in the ledger. What you did, who you helped, who you became. Close the book. Before we go further, I want to ask you something. What tiny act could bring meaning to your next hour at work, service, craft, or character? Tell me in the comments. And if this is helping you breathe a little easier, tap like and subscribe so this kind of conversation finds you again when you need it. Now, reality check. Some of you can't leave yet. Visas, family, healthcare, debt. Frankl would not shame you. He'd respect you. When we cannot change our situation, we are invited to change ourselves. That's not surrender. That's attitudinal heroism. The dignity you practice now will travel with you when you go. And yet, do not let dignity become a disguise for fear. If you can leave in 6 months, say it aloud. If one skill stands between you and a saner job, name it. Turn your evenings into apprenticeship. 100 hours over 3 months is more than enough to be dangerous in a new domain. You don't need certainty. You need momentum. There's a concept Frankl held close: tragic optimism, not blind positivity. The refusal to waste suffering. It means this: even when life is painful, we still believe life can be meaningful. So if your job is painful, your optimism is not. Tomorrow will be great. Your optimism is, I can pull meaning out of this day, and in doing so, I become someone who can build a different tomorrow. Let's talk about fear. The fear that if you stop hating your job, you'll lose your motivation to leave. A quiet confession: hatred is not a strategy. It's an acid that eats the container it sits in. You don't need hatred to move. You need clarity. You need a reason you love. Love of a craft you want to practice. Love of a person you want to provide for. Love of a kind of day you want to live. Let love pull. Let meaning steer. Let hatred retire. If you're worried that meaning is a luxury, hear this. Meaning is not a bonus prize for people with dream jobs. It's a muscle every human can train. The context matters. The muscle still works. If Frankl could find a way to be human in the worst conditions imaginable, then you and I can practice being human in a broken meeting. A few stumbling blocks usually show up. First, the myth of the one calling. You might think, if I don't find my perfect passion, I'm lost. Frankl would smile. Meaning is plural. You can find meaning in many places. In raising a child, in mastering a craft, in telling the truth, in helping a stranger, in facing pain without losing your soul. Don't wait for the one true calling. Choose one true act today. Second, the status trap. You're doing meaningful work if it changes you into a person you respect, and lifts someone else's burden even if nobody claps. You may never get an award for the way you write a clean email or greet a customer by name. But awards don't build a life. Quiet habits do. Third, the fantasy of leaving without arriving. You can exit a job and bring the same restless self with you. If you don't practice meaning now, the next job will inherit the same ache. Practicing meaning in a tough place isn't failure. It's training for freedom. So, How do we make this stick beyond one night? Create a ritual of meaning that survives chaos. Every morning, name a person, a craft, a virtue. Every afternoon, dare reflect by serving one concrete need. Every evening, write 3 lines what I did, who I helped, who I became. This is not homework. It's hygiene for the soul. On the hardest days, when it feels like nothing works, borrow a sentence from Frankl and repeat it under your breath. I am not a product of my circumstances. I am the bearer of my attitude. Then ask a tiny question. In this next 5 minutes, how can I be faithful to the person I want to become? 5 minutes is a lifetime when you aim it. If you're facing cruelty, set boundaries with dignity. You don't need fury to be firm. I can deliver that by Friday, not Wednesday. I won't take calls after 6 p.m. I'll need that request in writing. Calm is power. Document. Protect your sleep. Eat real food. Walk in the evening. These are not side quests. They are the fuel that keeps your mind free enough to choose meaning. And remember, service, craft, character. Pick one each day. The specifics will change. The spine stays the same. Over weeks, you'll feel small shifts. You'll care less about their mood, more about your mission. You'll need less external approval because you'll be keeping a private promise to yourself. You'll still have bad days because you're a human being, but you won't be trapped in the same way. You'll be standing in the same place with a different spine. There's a story I imagine Frankl telling about a worker on a night shift. No praise, no audience, no obvious meaning. One night, the worker decides, every machine I touch will be cleaner when I leave it. Every co-worker I pass will be greeted by name. Every problem I spot, I will leave a note with one helpful suggestion. No committee, no permission, just a human choosing to be a certain kind of presence in a certain place. After a month, the place is still flawed, but the worker is different. And that difference is not small. It's the start of a life. You don't have to love your job to respect yourself inside it. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions to contribute to life. You can find meaning today in the middle of the mess. And meaning is not just a feeling. It's a pattern of choices that adds up to a story you can live with. One day, maybe soon, you'll move on. You'll thank this chapter for the muscles it gave you. You'll walk into a new room with a quiet strength you didn't have before. People will feel it in the way you listen, the way you make things clear, the way you protect the vulnerable, the way you tell the truth without cruelty. That's not an accident. That's the person meaning built. So tonight, before you sleep, write 3 lines. Who needed you today? Where did you put a little order into chaos? Who did you become, even a little? Close your eyes. Feel the dignity of it. Tomorrow, when the dread knocks, you'll know what to do. You'll be ready to aim your attention, to choose your stance, to pull one thread of meaning out of the tangle. Frankl would not promise you an easy life. He would promise you a life you could respect. He would hand you back your freedom and say, use it, not to pretend your pain isn't real, but to decide, in spite of it, who you will be. And if you're listening to this in the parking lot before a shift, hear me, you have not failed at life because you hate this job. You are a human being who wants their time to matter. That is noble. That hunger is your friend. Let it guide you not into rage, but into clarity. Not into despair, but into practice. Not into fantasy, but into the next meaningful act. When the day begins, choose a person, a craft, a virtue. When it gets hard, dare a flex serve. When it ends, write your 3 lines. These are small doors, but they open to a wide life. You are not your job. You are the one who chooses how to live a day. And that, right now, is enough to start.